Hello, my beautiful friends. If you are new to this channel, my name is Vivian, but you can call me Viv, and I talk all about binge eating, emotional eating, and yo-yo dieting because for over 10 years, I thought about food every second of the day. I stressed about food every second of the day. And so I want to share as many resources and tips that I use to this day that have helped me develop a positive and loving relationship with both food and my body, which I never thought that I would be able to say. And so I really hope that what I share with you today is something that you can implement into your life and helps you on your journey. So one of the things that I started doing on my journey to binge eating and emotional eating recovery is before I sit down to eat a meal or a snack or just eat anything at all, I pause and I ask myself the question, am I physically hungry or am I emotionally or mentally craving something? And if you've never asked yourself this question before, it can actually be very difficult to decipher and distinguish between physical hunger and mental or emotional hunger. Because a lot of times we have mental or emotional hunger and we just assume that that is physical hunger because we want to eat something. And a process that's helped me distinguish between whether this is actual physical or emotional hunger is I close my eyes and I feel whether the craving feels like it's in my throat or in my head. And if it's in my throat or in my head, that's when I know it's a mental or emotional hunger versus if it's in the pit of my stomach. Does my stomach actually feel empty? Does it feel like it's rumbling? Does it feel like it's asking for food? So just pausing before eating anything, distinguishing between the physical and the emotional hunger and where I'm actually feeling that hunger in my body is a really great first signal to decipher whether this is physical or emotional hunger. Now, if it is a physical hunger, that is the green light to go ahead and eat because my body is craving those nutrients and those calories, right? But if it's an emotional or mental type of craving or hunger, I then ask myself, what emotion am I trying to soothe or solve? And again, if you've never done this before, it's going to be a little bit weird in the beginning because you may not have a great relationship with your intuition and your feelings yet. Keyword is yet, because in the beginning, I definitely didn't. But the more that I allowed myself to pause, ask myself, what emotion am I trying to solve with food? And I just waited 20, 30 seconds, I would get the answer from my intuition. And now I can really hone in on the emotion that I'm trying to solve. And usually what that is lack of self-care. My tendency and my go-to is to just work myself into the ground and not give myself enough decompressing time where I am not thinking about anything. I'm thinking constantly all day. So I noticed that a lot of the time, I'm actually wanting to eat so that I can shut off my mind because my mind is craving rest time to not have to work so hard or think 24/7. So when I know that that is what my body is asking for and what my mind is asking for, instead of reaching for food, I now know that I just need to take a break from work, from scrolling, from being on my phone, from thinking, and just get outside my house, get out in nature, and just listen to the emptiness of the street, of the outside world, of the birds singing, of the trees rustling. That's one example of how I solve the emotional need that I used to solve with food, because when I'm eating food, my mind is quiet. But funny enough, I would get the exact same relief feeling if I just stepped outside in the sun and listened to nothing. So that's one emotion that I was trying to solve. Another emotion that I often would try to solve with food was frustration from not being understood. So if I was communicating with my boyfriend and I felt like we just weren't understanding each other, I often noticed that after that experience, I would turn to food to try to understand me in a sense, because food always makes you feel good, especially hyperpalatable food. And I just wanted to feel good. I wanted something to make me feel good, to love me, to understand me. And I know it sounds weird to have food understand you, but that's really what my experience with food felt like, that it just understood me, that it got me. And so now when I notice that, after an argument or a disagreement or a misunderstanding that I have either with my significant other or even with a friend or a parent, and I notice myself wanting to gravitate towards food to make me feel better and loved, I stop and I pause and I ask myself, what do I want to be understood for? What wants to be seen within me? What part of me feels unseen, unheard, misunderstood? And how can I understand myself? How can I see myself? How can I give myself that feeling and validation that I'm looking for from other people? Perhaps it's just, yes, Vivian, I understand why you're upset. I understand why you're frustrated. And that's totally valid and that's totally okay. I'm looking for that validation from somebody else. But what a lot of us don't know is that we can give ourselves that validation that we are looking for. We don't have to go to external sources to feel validated. We may be used to doing that. However, there's a beautiful power inside of you that allows you to validate yourself and see yourself and understand yourself. And I started to dig into that part of me where I started to give myself that validation and love and understanding that I was so badly craving that I no longer needed to turn to food. So these are just a couple of examples that I never thought were reasons why I turned to food. It was really just I would feel bad and then I would use food to cure my bad feeling. But I never really dug into the real emotion that I was trying to solve, the real emotion that wanted to be nurtured and loved and cared for inside of me. This is a much more intuitive process that I wasn't used to because I'm a very intellectual person. My favorite subject, math, chemistry, very straightforward, black and white, no gray area, no feelings, no intuition. But I'm telling you right now, it wasn't until I got in tune with my emotional side and learned how to do that, that I was able to overcome binge eating and emotional eating. And a lot of my clients who are high achievers and high stressors and are also overthinkers, they're very intellectual. It's not until they also learn how to also develop that intuitive side of them and strengthen that relationship with their intuition and their feelings that they also are able to overcome the binge eating and emotional eating that has ruled their entire life. Now, if you would like to work with me one-on-one to overcome yo-yo dieting, to overcome emotional eating, you want to fully commit to your recovery, to developing the healthy, loving, positive relationship that you want with food and with your body, then go ahead and visit my website, www.teamevolve.co, and submit an application form to work with me. If you would also like to follow me on my other social medias, you can follow me on Instagram at Vivian No and on TikTok at Vivian No with an underscore at the end. If you would like to see more binge eating content from me, you like my tips, you want to hear more of things that have helped me on my journey, then go ahead and click this video right here. And otherwise, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today and for showing my channel and me your love and support. It is so appreciated.